And it's Matter of Facts Podcast again, 1:20 in the afternoon, Saluda, North Carolina, 10th Annual Prepper Camp. We have this guy sitting next to me, but I don't know what to name him. He was Mike first, and now he's Sam, and he's probably going to change his name again in a couple hours.
Well, he was actually Sam first, and then he was Mike.
Sam
now he's
first,
Mike.
then Mike, now he's, yeah. So, introduce yourself, whoever you are today.
Yeah, I started blogging in 2011 under the pseudonym Sam Culper because I was actually deployed to Afghanistan at the time, and I didn't want to use my real name. And, then I got out in 2012, and like a few years ago, I started using my real name because, I don't know, I'm Mike, not Sam. So,
yeah. What's crazy, though, is, because I knew you, I first met you as Sam. And so even to this day, every once in a while, I'll point, I'm like, Mike. And so, I stumble. Every once in a while, I'll catch myself.
Yeah. So, I know a lot of your backstory already, but, I know you worked in Army intelligence.
Yep.
And now you do this thing where you're trying to bring some of the intelligence gathering, intelligence analysis principles that you learned in the Army, I'm semi-familiar with from also being in the Army, but you're trying to bring this into the civilian sector and the prepper community to kind of teach people how to look at what are your intelligence sources, how do you analyze them, how do you use them to determine what your threats are, and try to apply a more of a data-driven analysis of that process instead of just I saw something on CNN and now I need to react to it.
Yeah, sure.
So talk us through all that.
Yeah, an area study is a really great place to start off with this. We, in the Army, we say intelligence drives the fight, and intelligence drives operations. It drives security planning. It drives emergency preparedness, and so ultimately we're talking about making good decisions during an emergency, and it's difficult to make good decisions when you don't have good information. And so people are going to have one or two problems during an emergency. We're all preparing for X, Y, or Z, whatever flavor of the future you are preparing for. And so one or two problems. Number one is you're going to not have enough information coming in to make good decisions. And that is a problem of intelligence gathering. Or you're going to have the second problem, which is you're going to have so much information coming in that you're overwhelmed. You're not going to be able to sort through it all. You're going to be leaving key facts on the table, and you're going to walk into some kind of strategic surprise because you're not able to process all that information. That's the problem of intelligence analysis.
Yep.
So really, it takes two to make a thing go right. It takes two to make it out of sight. You got to have collection and analysis, and that's my message. Is do your area study. People say, well, I'm preparing for a war with China or an EMP or societal collapse or whatever. And the reality is they're not actually preparing for that. They should be preparing for the local effects of that. So how do we take a war with China and boil it down to how does this affect me on my doorstep and down my street? Because that's the stuff you're really preparing for. And so, it's not like we're not talking about NSA and CIA stuff. This is tactical intelligence, local level, real practical stuff.
Yeah, and I'd be curious what your thought is on this. I was actually just talking to somebody literally about intelligence gathering, and what I kind of put out there was, I'm like, I think social media is like a pox upon the earth. It's like a digital plague, personally. But I joke with people about the fact that, I use Facebook like an intelligence gathering network, because there are times when there are local emergencies, there's flooding, or there's hurricanes, there's tropical storms. There was a time years ago I was deployed for work up to Shreveport, and I had to make my way home. So it turned out there was a group that somebody pinged me into, a Facebook group, because they knew that I was survival-minded and I was in the local area. I was a like-minded person. And somebody had set up this group from all across Louisiana and Mississippi and that whole area that had been affected by the storm. And we were all trading local intelligence because I couldn't tell them what was going on back home where I was from, but I was in Shreveport, and I could tell them what's going on in Shreveport. So if people had family up there they were worried about, we could kind of trade that data back and forth, and I could tell them, hey, Shreveport, no flooding, no street flooding, everybody up here should be fine. I'm not hearing anything on the local AM stations about trees down or, power outages. If you have family up here, they're probably okay. And in return, I was getting data from all up and down the Mississippi-Louisiana line so that I knew, okay, this area, there's some street flooding. This area, you probably want to duck off the interstate for a little bit. And I was able to put together a plan from a Facebook group, from a Facebook chat, to get home in a way that let me avoid all those emergencies. But when I tell people that, they're like, Facebook is an intelligence gathering source? And I'm like, everything's a source as long as you can sift through the bull crap and determine what is information that you can act on and what's just extraneous data points.
Well, it's funny because, like you say, people, they question Facebook can, when you get that question, can Facebook be an intelligence source? It's like, well, yeah, because look at how much crap you're sharing. If you go on someone's profile and they're not completely locked down 100% to where you can't see anything, I mean, there's people that, they have their kids' names, pets' names, they have pictures of their pets, pictures of their kids, they have when we're going out of town, they have when we're going to be back, they have everything. I mean, when they're going to the bathroom, for crying out loud. They have literally everything. They have so much information they put online to where if you're actually somebody who wants to do something or you want to target a person, people make it easy nowadays.
Yeah, and I'm not going to lie, like, I call my wife the Facebook sneak, because like if one of her girlfriends is dating somebody or something's going on, or like even if my daughter makes a new friend at school, we start creeping those people's Facebook profiles to see what kind of information they put out there to kind of give us that window into them and see who exactly we deal with before we show up on their front door. And it sounds a little funny, but when you start thinking about it, I mean, anything to me can turn into a potential intelligence source. All you're looking for is an exchange of information and data, and then, like you said, the analysis part of that is the name of their cat information to me? Not really, unless I'm really interested in cats. But something that they might be sharing very well could be information that I could act upon.
I mean, the thing is, though, is when you're looking at somebody's information and, like, you want to look at just individuals, some of their passwords. A lot of times it's like a pet's name, a year, some kind of a year, or like an address or whatever. And you go online, if you can kind of sift through that information, you know what you're looking for. A lot of times you can probably guess some passwords, if you sit down and take the time. So, yeah. But so taking from what you've learned in the military, and then with everything that you have going on, you created a company called Forward Observer. Mm-hmm. So tell us about that.
Well, we're just a group of intelligence and special operations veterans, and we write a free daily intel brief on news that you probably didn't see in the news, because the news doesn't actually do their job anymore. And we focus on politics, economics, domestically, and then the geostrategic development. So what China's doing around the world, potential other geopolitical conflicts and geopolitical developments. Really trying to figure out America's role in the world, strategically. Are we gaining more power and influence? Are we losing more power and influence? Because that's a pretty key indicator to how close we are to the edge, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I know a lot of what you stress from conversations we've had in the past is it's your area study. It's what's going on from your front door to your mailbox, or from your mailbox to the end of the street. What's going on in your local community? Like, you really push that idea that to be worried about China and Russia, I mean, it's valid if that affects you directly, but you really need to be worried about the crackhead that lives down the street, or the guy that's selling dope 2 blocks away from you that might initiate a shootout. Like, you need to be really hyper-focused on the threats that are most pertinent to your family unit and most, I wouldn't even say like physical proximity, but have the greatest proximity to you. It's what affects you and should therefore affect your plans.
Yeah, your mission, right? So, I mean, everyone should understand their local mission. And the mission is based on the threat and the hazards and conditions that you experience locally. So, the real goal is to say, well, stock market crash or hyperinflation or EMP, whatever floats your boat, how does that affect me at the local level? And you do an area study, and that is like the absolute first step, bare minimum, that people should be doing.
An area study is the class that you're teaching here at Prepper Camp.
Correct.
And it's crazy because it's all the information that you can give in 45 minutes, basically. Like, it's nuts how much information you do give, but then it's like, okay, well, what else? What else do I need to know? And that's where I like Forward Observer. I've been subscribed to Forward Observer for, a number of years now.
Yeah, thank you.
And like the email that you send out every day, it's how much information you put in that is one thing, but then like your guys' video that you go into, you dive into more on the website, like that's crazy. Like how much financial, there's you guys you guys have hit so much on the head. Because I remember you guys before Ukraine and Russia happened. You guys were like, hey, these are warning signs. This is what's going to happen. This is how it's going to happen. Blah blah blah. And all of a sudden it was like, okay, I see that. Okay, I see that. Russia's going to attack soon, and it was within like another couple days. It was like Russia invaded, and you guys are spot on. And you guys are really hitting the nail on the head with Russia or with China and Taiwan too. And so it's just, but that's stuff you don't see and that's the thing is that aggravates me about the quote unquote mainstream media, is that's information you're not getting. And it's not directing us, like, I mean, I guess it is actually it's affecting all of us, because the fact that we're sending billions of dollars over to Ukraine, it's tax dollar money. Well, then you got China, which how much crap comes out of China that comes to the U.S. a lot, and then how much do we rely on Taiwan for stuff a lot. And so, you guys have been really talking about that too. So that's really interesting. So what's some future? What's the future for Forward Observer? What do you see?
Man, that's a great question. Listen, information's a commodity, and so there is no competing on information because it's just ubiquitous. You can find it anywhere, and I think the real future is in refining our analysis and providing forecasts. I think the future is tech. We're already using AI, and AI is just going to start changing jobs. So really, just as a CEO, strategically, the question I have is, all right, how can we use our burgeoning AI platform to enhance our analysis, to reduce more uncertainty about the future, to produce better early warning indicators, so we can say, like Russia, we called 90 days out. We published a video that said war with Russia in 90 days. It was literally 90 days later that Russia invaded. And, we run all our early warning matrices, but using AI, we can do that a lot better. We just have to keep developing our AI system.
It just becomes more and more refined, and so
Correct,
okay.
Yeah.
So kind of going.
We in a certain sense, we have to become a tech company, basically.
Yeah, in a way, yeah, you are. So going back, taking Forward Observer, because not only do you guys do the foreign and stuff, but like what Phil said, you guys do domestic, and because you guys really cover like when Antifa, the January 6th stuff, like you guys were really hitting that pretty hard, and that kind of goes into area study. And the one thing, if people don't really want to, if they don't want to subscribe to Forward Observer, you are also an author. So tell us about the book that you wrote.
Yeah, it's called the Area Intelligence Handbook, and it is a start to finish, chapter by chapter manual handbook on how to do an area study. What information do you need? Where can you find it? And what you can do with that information once you have it.
And then also, I mean, I'm trying to think. So, because I mean, like what Phil said, you can your front door to your mailbox. I mean, I remember in your class. I mean, you talk about you expand out further. So, I mean, because I mean, how many people have actually looked up the crime and the statistics in their neighborhood? How many people have looked up the pedophile list in their neighborhood?
Yep.
How many people have looked up the crime, because you can look up the crime data and see, okay, this guy he lives here and he was in prison for this or jail for this or whatever. But that's the thing is, like, I mean, like my cousin, like they bought a house. They bought a house up north, in Michigan. I'm saying this is me coming from Michigan up north, and they decided to say, hey, they had kind of a weird encounters with a couple of the neighbors. They plugged in some of the information. Come to find out, some of them were on the watch list. So like, and so that, and then so it's like they take that, and then they take their daughter, and they're like, hey, listen, these people, you're not to talk to them. I don't care if they come up asking for milk, a piece of bread, whatever it is. You do not talk to them. You do not answer the door. If you're getting into your car and they're walking up, you get in your car and you drive off. You do not talk to them without without a parent around. So
yeah, I mean that's honestly a good cautionary tale, even for like the other podcasts me and Gillian do, because we talk about things that impact your children, things that impact the family, and we talk about stranger danger, but that's even taking the general principles of, hey, you really don't need to talk to strangers without an adult around, and now you're using the data-driven and the intelligence aspect of this to say these are specific threats that could influence your family. I have identified them. I put mitigation strategies in place to alleviate that as a potential concern. Honestly, it's a really transformative way to look at prepping, because, obviously I have some familiarity with military intelligence, nowhere would you do, But it's the thing you said that stuck out to me the first year I met you and I took your class was this whole idea of like this is data driven now. This is data and this is analysis. Like we're really looking at this from a really concrete basis of this is definitely a threat because this is at your front door. This is a threat 200 miles away from you. Prepare for a threat 200 miles away from you? Fine if you want to, but you better prepare for this threat right here first because this is the one that's going to affect your front door first. And I mean, it really calls to mind like some of the scenarios we've read about in prepper fiction where like a homestead would be threatened because there's like a local Section 8 housing project or something close by. Those are things you should really avail yourself of and know. The old saying of you want to know who your neighbors are? In our society today, knowing your neighbors just doesn't happen near as often as it does. And if you're not on speaking terms with your neighbors, it pays to at least know who they are and what they're about. Do they present a threat to you? Are they something you might have to watch out for? But like, those are some of the lessons that I took away from that talk about the area study and everything. And it's been really transformative. It's something that I try to put into other people's heads of, like, this is kind of what you provide is the framework to digest this data and turn it into information you can actually act on. But are you seeing that kind of gaining traction in the prepper community where maybe we're seeing more worry about the things that impact a local area and more focus on the community and less about the esoteric threats?
Yeah, I think so. There's there's still a big concern on big strategic events. People are freaked out about China and, the government stuff. But yeah, the more talks I do on this and the more veterans especially who say, yeah, actually the area study is a very good starting point, right? I mean, there's so many people who have questions that say, well, what should I be preparing for? Well, do your area study. Look at the 6 layers of your operating environment. Find out where the threats are, the hazards, your vulnerabilities and limitations, and that's going to tell you exactly what you need to be preparing for. And, you touch on the people. Social dynamics are very important to understand at the local level. What individuals and groups are going to band together during an emergency? And, are you going to be a part of the in group or part of the out group? And if you're going to be part of the out group, then you got some work to do to expand your tribe and your network. And so, just looking at third world conditions in a lot of other countries, for instance, it's very tribal. And so, are you going to be in the dominant tribe or the non-dominant tribe? And that's a really great area to focus your preparedness on because you're going to, in a worst case scenario, you're going to have a lot of problems if you're in the out group.
Yeah, well, I mean, and I know in the past you've really hammered people hard on like establish your local community, focus on your local community, build local economy, reach out to those ranchers and farmers so that you know where you can get food and they know where they can get what they need. And this all kind of echoes back to what you were talking about, like third world and tribal dynamics. And like if you think back to like really primitive man, if you were like being shunned by the tribe was a death sentence.
Yeah.
Like you couldn't survive without the community in a time when we were hunter-gatherers or even when we were just subsistence farmers. You had to have the community or you starve. And I think it's important to remember that like if we're ever in, God forbid, that SHTF situation where things have gone really, really, really bad, you're going to have to work 4, 5, 6 times as hard to get your needs met as you do when the power's on and modern conveniences are there and you can twist the tap and the magical clean water comes out. Like simple things like harvesting clean drinking water turn into a major situation in a bad situation. And if you don't have that tribe that you can fall back on, if you are the outgroup or you're by yourself, it can turn a really bad day into a very terminal day very quickly. But like that's another thing that you say that echoes with me a lot. It's like you need to focus on your local community. You need to build your mag, even if it's not something that's formalized as mag. I need to know who I can reach out to for resources, and they need to know I have resources they need. You have to build. You focus a lot on the local aspect of this, which. Coming out here to prepper camp, there are people I see once a year. And I hate to say it, but if the flag goes up, none of y'all are going to be able to help me out in the middle of Louisiana.
Yeah, right.
But just here at camp, and like I kind of want to talk briefly about like what an event this is to bring so many instructors like yourself and everybody else together. But just here at camp, I met 2 people that are within an hour and a half from me down in Louisiana, prepper minded, seem like good squared away guys. I'm gonna have to reach out to them after this is over and be like, hey guys, I want to meet y'all. I like to meet your families. Y'all meet mine, and I want to know that I have some local resources I can tap if I get into trouble. And if you get into trouble, you can make a phone call and I can come running. Mm-hmm. So, but I mean, what do you think about prepper camp? Because I know you've been here a handful of times. You've been an instructor. You've been a vendor. You've probably been a student at some point, because I know every one of us has ducked our head in one of these classes at one time or two. But like, what do you think about this event? How does this fit into the world of prepping?
I keep coming back because they're good classes, but I'm like y'all. I like hanging out with y'all at in the class. Head up on the hill, break bread, break a couple bottles of moonshine, and and just enjoy each other's camaraderie. And it's it really is. It's almost like a family reunion kind of a feeling, because I mean we've been coming to this for such a long time, and this is once a year I see y'all. So I see y'all once a year, and it's a great time. Learn during the day and hang out and socialize, and enjoy being the only person who is not enjoy not being the only person who's freaked out about the future.
Yeah. And like I said, I mean, this is a great opportunity to find your tribe. If you haven't come to prepper camp before, or if you're home watching this and never heard of it, or just couldn't make it this year, like, this is a really great opportunity to get a ton of knowledge from a ton of subject matter experts and bring that home to your family and your group, and also potentially find your tribe. I mean, you walk up and down this aisle long enough, you're going to hear somebody who has an accent that sounds familiar, or you're going to see, like, your favorite sports team on their hat or something and be like, you might be somebody I want to talk to. And you bring those relationships home with you. Like, to me, this is like coming to church once a year. I go home and proselytize to the masses after this. I go home recharged, and I go home with new ideas. Ideas, quite frankly, a lot of them I got from you. Because in my mind, what Forward Observer is a new way of viewing how to analyze your threats and how to develop plans around them. It's not new to you. It's certainly not new to the military intelligence aspect, but it is new to the civilian population. But I'm hoping that it's catching on.
It is. Yeah, it's so foreign, the terms, because everyone thinks, I think there's a misconception, they say, area intelligence, that must be some, like stuff I wouldn't be interested in, like James Bond stuff or whatever. And no, man, it's just basic bare bones tactical intelligence that everybody needs.
Yeah. So what else are you working on? Is there anything in the future other than, continuing to drive the data analysis thing? Any other projects or any other partnerships you're working with?
Yeah, I mean, we've always got stuff in the works, but, I had my wife and I had our first child this year, so
Congrats.
I've really been, thank you, taking most of this year off and just, enjoy being a dad. But yeah, I'm going to start hitting the road here again and teaching new courses. So we got some new courses coming up, and now Wes is on board. So Wes is teaching also some different types of intelligence and security classes. So yeah, we have a relatively new training company called Gray Zone Activity, and we're really going to specialize in intelligence and security, teaching the skills that people need to know in a gray zone environment, a place where information and communications and the security environment is degraded, because things are not getting better from here.
No.
And, it's like, I don't think we're going to have Mad Max. I just think we're going to be living like South Africa or parts of Eastern Europe or Latin America, basically.
That's not exactly a comforting thought, but
no.
I'm not going to jump up on the table and say, no, that'll never happen, because I think most of our viewers and listeners would take that as a sobering reminder that, like, most of those places in the world you've mentioned at one time had much better days than they had.
Nice places, yeah.
Yeah, they were nice places, and now it's like you said. I don't think we're heading to Mad Max, which disappoints me, because I had a Lord Humongous costume like ready to go for the apocalypse.
Yeah.
Studded codpiece, hockey mask, the whole 9 yards, combat boots, and bare legs. But unfortunately, I do think we are moving towards a world where people are going to have to take more responsibility for their self-preservation, more responsibility for their self-protection, more responsibility for building the local community and keeping the money in the local community. And some aspect of that has to be, like you said, tactical intelligence. If you don't know what threats are threatening your community, then you're reacting, not being proactive. So where do people find y'all? Forward Observer.
Yeah, forwardobserver.com. And, that's our FO website. I'm on fairly active on Twitter and Instagram. Just Gray Zone Intel, Gray with an A, no spaces. And then our training company is grayzoneactivity.com, Gray with an A, grayzoneactivity.com.
And then that book that you were talking about, that's on Ford Observer website?
Yeah, if you click the store tab, or you can go to Gray Zone Store, Gray with an A, and get the Area Intelligence Handbook.
Awesome.
Anything else to leave the listeners with, or is that about it?
Get your area study done. I'm going to re-record my talk. I didn't record any of the sessions here. I'm going to record that talk and put it on YouTube or put it on a website somewhere so people who don't go to Prepper Camp can get the Prepper Camp experience, at least as far as area intel goes.
Well, let us know.
When you put it on YouTube, definitely let us know. We'll repost on our own YouTube channel because I want to see that methodology and that thought process propagate. I think it's useful. I think it's helpful to help people kind of separate out the wheat from the chaff when it comes to what do you really need to be focused on.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Mike, Sam.
Yeah, thank you all. Yeah. Mike's fine. Mike's cool. I've always been Mike.
All right. Well, Matter of Facts Podcast is going to kick this one out the door. I think we've got 2 more interviews sometime today, and then Moonshine.
I'll surprise you.
Moonshine and tomfoolery later.
Yeah.
I'm driving home later, man.
Okay. We will indulge in tomfoolery in your honor.
All right. Sounds good.
All right. Matter of Facts Podcast heading out. Bye, y'all.
See ya.